Hi, everyone. Okay, so truthfully, I did ask ChatGPT to help me come up with an amazing opener. I asked it for something very clever, something that would kind of get your interest straight away. And honestly, the results were a little bit cheesy. I'll tell you what it said. It basically said to me, imagine you've built this lock for a door and it's got the best encryption. It's made of gold. It's amazing. Nobody can open it. And then you kind of test it on the door and it's actually a door that doesn't even need a lock in the first place. It's okay. I liked it. But truthfully, what I'm most interested in is how many people here have built something, made a slideshow, done a project, you think it's amazing, and nobody actually uses it, nobody reads it, and nobody cares. So hopefully that resonates a little bit more than the lock analogy. So I'll be talking about problems first and solutions second. So very briefly, a little bit about me. So I've got around 7 years product experience, fairly non-linear path. So I started in consultancy. I've got experience in startups and then a little bit of finance and some VC as well. I have experience across different industries, healthcare, government, legal, travel, just a bunch of random things, which I'm a big fan of, by the way. So if you want to talk about that a little bit later, then do find me. I thought it'd be nice to tell you, rather than about my CV, the things I actually very much care about. So I care about literally learning something new every day. And I think I've already learned a bunch from the guys who've already spoken. I care about developing others because I've been very, very fortunate that I've had very good coaches, PM mentors across the different roles that I've done. This is very niche, but I thought it'd be nice to call out, but I care very much about flexible decision making. So in product, there are frameworks. There's Agile, there's Scrum, there's whatever. And I think a massive trap which you can fall into very early on is just being very rigid with these frameworks. You know, they're not kind of the law of the land. You know, sometimes just ignore them. They don't actually work. So being flexible is very deeply important to me. And problems. So let's get straight into it. So I thought I would give you an example where I was actually at fault here of solution first thinking gone wrong. So this is kind of early on in my consultancy days. And I was working on a project where I basically was working with a team and we had to deliver a solution. I won't kind of say who the client was, but they were very keen. This was in 2019 to become a leader in AI. They wanted to basically smash it literally internationally and be amazing at all things AI across healthcare, across education, across society, everything, which, you know what, it's a great mission. It's very passionate. It's very exciting. And for 2019, you know, it's pretty modern and forward thinking to have that. So I was very excited by that. And we had about, I think, 8 weeks to deliver a roadmap of things we could build which would help them to get to this point. I think in about the next 5 years, that was their timeline. And so we started thinking, you know, what are cool things that, you know, would help this place reach that point? And we built them a phenomenal roadmap, if I may say so myself, amazing slides, super neat, everything center aligned. It was brilliant. And we were so excited and we delivered it. And they were like, this is really nice. This is amazing. And then what do they say? That's great, but how are you actually going to do it? Or why did you pick this one? And why didn't you pick this other thing? There was a lot of back and forth and we were not expecting that. And I think what went wrong there, I think it's pretty obvious. We kind of took what the client said at face value. We thought, you know, they want something flashy. They want something shiny. Let's do it. And we'll hopefully win on that follow-on work. So we can then build the things that we said we could build. The problem here is slightly controversial, but anybody can think of shiny solutions. Anyone, kind of like my nephew, can come up with a very cool idea, sometimes better than me, depending on what we're talking about. Not Peppa Pig, and that's his kind of special area. But anybody can come up with something cool, especially now with things like ChatGPT. You can come up with an amazing solution very, very quickly. And I think what they had hired us for wasn't to come up with those flashy solutions. It was to come up with a pragmatic way of actually solving the problem, which is we're not actually at the forefront of AI right now. We want to be at the forefront of AI right now. How do we actually do that? And it was a very rookie mistake to make, but definitely learnt a lot from that one. And I think, why do we actually love jumping to solutions? So I don't know about you guys, but when a friend comes to me and they say, you know, I want to talk to you about something, I'm having relationship issues or I'm having work issues, my brain honestly immediately jumps to, what can I do to help? How can I fix it for you? Shall we go for a coffee and I can give you some ideas? I can introduce you to people. It just goes into solution mode. And I don't know how that resonates with you guys, but it's very natural. And that kind of ties into the second point here, excitement. It's very exciting to start fixing something, right? You feel useful, you feel great at doing that. And you feel, I'm actually doing something useful here. There's also, I've kind of missed the first one, but bias. Sometimes, say you're working for a company that kind of deploys healthcare solutions, you're going to have this bias that, okay, everything we deliver falls within this space. You're going to have some bias. And truthfully, it's very hard to step out of bias and actually think objectively about the problem space. You are kind of applying your solution head, your biases, to finding the best possible outcome. And that kind of leans towards more solution thinking than problem thinking. Time and execution pressure, especially in the early stage startups, you have to kind of rush to show something of value. You want to get that next investment round. There are so many different elements of pressure that are kind of forcing you to hurry up and get to that answer. Rigid sprint cycles, again, a pet peeve. You've got 2 weeks to in this sprint. We have to have this thing by the end of two weeks. Why? Like, what is the actual reason you need something by the end of those 2 weeks? And as I said, a feeling of execution. There's more of a sense of doing when you're figuring out a solution rather than thinking about the problem. So very quickly, a real life example of problem first thinking. So I was working on a product where I had to basically create a developer experience for engineers who were going to deploy this kind of solution. I won't go into too much detail about it, but I was building something for engineers. And it was starting from scratch. I wasn't fixing something that had gone wrong. And the approach we basically took was, let's come up with kind of an initial MVP. What are we basing that on, given we don't have anything to go by? Well, we kind of took the user problems that we were trying to solve with the overall product and helped that guide us to come up with the MVP. And I think it's useful to always assume you're going to be wrong in the first instance. And that's useful. The quicker you are to being wrong, the quicker you'll get to being right. And that obviously depends on doing fast user testing and fast iterations. So that's exactly what I did with this product with my team. We were lucky we had access to a bunch of engineers we could test this out with. And I really want people to tell me when something's wrong. I don't care what's going right. I mean, I do, but less so. But I care more of what's not working here. Why is it not working? How would you imagine it to be different? How would you imagine it to be better? And I won't kind of give you a whole another 10-minute lecture about user research. We can talk about that another time. But it's just don't kind of go in with a solution that you think is going to work immediately. You're not the expert here. The person who's going to be using the thing is the expert, and they are the ones with the problems. You might be the one with the cool, flashy solution, but it might not match up to the problems that actually matter. So my main takeaways here are, this is so cheesy, and I promised you it's in probably every product book you've ever read. And I didn't want to put it, but I've put it, sorry. So it's fall in love with the problem, not your idea and not the idea. So you might be applying for a cool job where you're really in love with the product that they build. You want to be part of their mission. It's amazing. It's cool. But what is the actual problem that they're trying to solve with this? Because that's the thing that's going to remain constant. The solution will change. If you look at Instagram from 5 years ago, it's very different to what it is now. If you applied for a job there 5 years ago because you liked how it looked, it's very different to what it is now, right? Whereas the problem has remained basically the same. I've put the not your, the idea, because this is just a little call out that you can get very attached to the solution that you have come up with. I know I have definitely fallen into that trap. But try not to do that. Don't hold attachment to your solution. You care about the problem. That's the only thing you should care about. The solution doesn't kind of say anything about you as a PM, your skills as a PM. It's more important that you deeply understand the problem. And that's where your skill set as a product person lies. Slightly controversial opinion is spend more time on the problem than the solution build. So say you do have to, unfortunately, work in very rigid sprint cycles. You've got 4 weeks, let's say, and you're like, okay, cool, we'll do 1 week on the problem and 3 weeks on the solution. I'm interested to understand why you think that's the right approach. I would actually I wouldn't even define the amount of time. Slightly risky, slightly controversial, not always possible, but spend time on the problem and don't set yourself on rigid timelines. If you have to, then be realistic and always give yourself extra time to work and think about that problem before you move on to the solution. Because if you've got the right problem, you'll probably get to the right solution quicker. And lastly, reframe problems until they're obvious. If something isn't working, the problem definition might be wrong. Don't just keep trying to fix your solution over and over again. Revisit your problem space and see if you've actually got the right problem that you're trying to solve. End with a nice, which I think is quite a nice quote and not as cheesy as some of the other stuff. It's better to solve the right problem approximately than to solve the wrong problem exactly. Thank you.